But first, a small glorification for the Srimad Bhagavatam. O Srimad Bhagavatam, O my only friend, my companion and my teacher, O my great wealth and deliverer, O my good fortune and bliss, I offer respectful obeisances unto you. So verse 29. So it's the chapter Diti vows to kill King Indra. So King Indra, Diti is the mother of the demons, and King Indra had engaged Lord Krishna, Lord Vishnu, to kill Hiranyakashipu and Hiranyaksha, which were the son of Diti. And now Diti is very angry. But it's interesting, she is not angry directly at Narayan or Vishnu, she's angry at Indra, because she knows that's because of Indra that Vishnu has killed my son. So she's making some plans to take revenge toward Indra. So the chapter is she make vow that Indra will be killed. Okay, so verse 29. Evam shtriya jadi bhuto vitvanapi manojgaya badam iti aham vivaso natach chitram hi yoshiti. Although Kashyapa Muni was a learned scholar, he was captivated by Diti's artificial behavior, which brought him under her control. Therefore, he assured his wife that he would fulfill her desires. Such a promise by a husband is not at all astonishing. And now we have the verse of today. We'll have word by word first. Please repeat after me. Vilokshya, seeing, ekanta bhutani, detached, bhutani, the living entities, adao, in the beginning, Prajapatihi, Lord Brahma, Striyam, the woman, Chakre, created, Svadeha, of his body, Ardam, half, Yaya, by whom, Pumsham, of men, Matihi, the mind, Rita, carried away, Vilokye kanta bhutani, Vilokye kanta bhutani, Bhutani ado prajapati, Bhutani ado prajapati, Striyam chakre svadehardam, Striyam chakre svadehardam, Yaya pumsam matirita, Yaya pumsam matirita, Vilokya kanta bhutani, Bhutani adau prajapati, Striyam chakre svadehardam, Yaya pumsam matirita. Please. Regis? Thank you. Translation and purport by His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. In the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma, the father of the living entities of the universe, saw that all the living entities were unattached. To increase population, he then created woman from the better half of a man's body. For woman's behavior carries away a man's mind. Purport. This entire universe is going on under the spell of sexual attachment, which was created by Lord Brahma to increase the population of the entire universe, not only in human society, but also in other species. As stated by Rishabdev in the 5th canto, Pumsam Striyam Mituni Bhavam Etam, the entire world is going on under the spell of sexual attraction and desire between man and woman. When man and woman unite, the hard knot of this attraction becomes increasingly tight, and thus a man implicated in the materialistic way of life, and thus a man is implicated in the materialistic way of life. This is the illusion of the material world. This illusion acted upon Kashyapa Muni, although he was very learned and advanced in spiritual knowledge. As stated in the Manu Samhita and Srimad Bhagavatam, Matrasvasha duhitrava navi vikshta sano bhavet balavan indriya gramo vidvamsam apika shati. A man should not associate with a woman in a solitary place, not even with his mother, sister or daughter, for the senses are so strong that they lead astray even a person advanced in knowledge. When a man remains in a solitary place with a woman, his sexual desire undoubtedly increases. Therefore, the word ekanta bhutani, which are used here, indicate that to avoid sexual desire, one should avoid the company of women as far as possible. Sexual desire is so powerful that one is saturated with it if he stays in a solitary place with any woman, even his mother, sister or daughter. So again, the 2 verses of today, verse 29. Although Kashyapa Muni was a learned scholar, he was captivated by Diti's artificial behavior, which brought him under her control. Therefore, he assured his wife that he would fulfill her desires. Such a promise by a husband is not at all astonishing. Verse 30. In the beginning of creation, Lord Brahma, the father of all living entities of the universe, saw that all living entities were unattached. To increase population, he then created woman from the better half of a man's body. For woman's behavior carries away a man's mind. If you like, you can join me with prayer. Om Gyana Timirandasya Gyananjana Shalakaya Chakshurum Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave Namaha Sri Chaitanya Manobishtam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kadamayam Dadati Svapadantikam E Krishna Karuna Sindhu Dinabandho Jagatpate Gopesha Gopika Kanta Radha Kanta Namostute Tapta Kanchana Gourangi Radhe Vrindavaneshwari Vrishabhanusute Devi Pranamami Hari Priye Jayatam Surato Pangor Mama Manda Matergati Matsarvasva Padambujo Radha Madana Mohano Jaya Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasadi Gaura Bhakta Vrinda Hare Krishna 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 Hare 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 Rama 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 Hare Hare. I was born in the darkness of ignorance, but my spiritual master, with the torchlight of knowledge, has opened my eyes. Therefore I offer him my respectful obeisances. So we have quite of interesting verse, interesting time in the Srimad Bhagavatam when Diti was actually conquering the heart of her husband with her behavior, her way of acting. She just captured his heart. And Kashyapa Muni was saying in the verse 29, okay, I'm ready to fulfill all your desire. His heart had been captivated, now he's ready to fulfill all her desires. And then on the verse 30, we hear that Lord Brahma at the creation saw that there was only men and they were all too detached. And he had also the goal to procreate, and the material world had to go on. So then he created the woman with the best of the half part of the man. It means that the man has two parts, and the best of those parts, from the best of this part, he created the woman. And then from there, the very strong attachment came, and from this attachment, the men were ready to procreate and ready to start economic development, to start the whole process of material world. So today, the title of the lecture is to deal with this most powerful illusion that is actually connected to the material body. And the principle is that the attraction to the opposite gender is the most powerful of illusion. Here in the verse we hear of the woman, but it's going both ways. Men can be captivated by the woman, and women can be captivated by the man. It goes in both directions. So I hope that in this lecture we will get some understanding of the mechanism of how this material illusion is working, and that we will become more careful in the way we associate with the opposite gender. Srila Prabhupada once said that my only critique to my disciple is that they are not sufficiently afraid of Maya. And that's something sometimes we think, it's okay, I'm a devotee, I can act and do how I like and how I want, but we can see that often, even in the life of devotee, we can get captured by this material illusion that is extremely powerful. So we will see why is illicit sexual indulgence negative. What is there negative into that? Can it be positive? That will be the next point. And at the end, how to remain pure and unattached from this illicit association. So why is illicit sexual indulgence negative? When Prabhupada came to the West, he was not immediately, actually he was preaching Krishna consciousness, he was cultivating those who were coming close to him, and at the moment of the initiation, he told them about the 4 rules and regulation. They were ready to initiate, and he said, by the way, for initiation you need to promise and follow those rules. And in those rules we have like to not have illicit sexual indulgence, which is one of the most difficult to follow of all the 4 rules. And he later explained, he actually in the Bhagavad Gita is writing that those 4 rules and regulations are the rules for freedom, which is a very, very powerful explanation, because often we feel rules and regulation will be a blockage to our freedom. But those rules and regulations actually are bringing us toward freedom. Therefore, it's the opposite of freedom is attachment, and therefore this type of activities will make a very, very strong bondage of the living entity to the material body and to the material world. This is one of the negative aspects of illicit sexual enjoyment. Material society preaches that actually sexuality is very nice and it will make you happy, but we can see that it doesn't really work. And if that will work, prostitute will be the most happiest person of the world, but they are definitely not. So this is part of this illusion that this type of illicit encounter is actually dragging our energy out. It's actually it's taking away the purity of our heart. We know that those 4 rules and regulations are connected to pillars of Dharma, and illicit sexual enjoyment is connected to purity. So it's actually making one's impure when this is happening. So that's another negative aspect of that. I was reading recently, there is in the 11th canto, there is the story of the Avadhuta Brahmana. It's actually Krishna speaking to Uddhava, and he's telling the story of this Avadhuta Brahmana who speak about this attachment to the material world. And the Avadhuta Brahmana is saying, everyone considers certain things within this material world to be most dear to him. And because of attachment to such things, one eventually becomes miserable. One who understands this gives up material possessiveness and attachment and thus achieve unlimited happiness. So here he is making very clear the attachments that we have in this world, they are the ones that create misery, that create difficulties, that create pain in our heart. But when one is detached from that, he can actually experience unlimited happiness. So we hear also in the verse, it makes a knot in the heart, a knot that becomes very, 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 very tight. It carries the mind away, like the case for, is it Kasyapa Muni? Yeah, Kasyapa Muni. It just brings his mind away. And we hear actually in the Vedic scripture, there are so many great saints that actually became charmed or became attracted by the opposite gender, by this particular illusion, and then fell down, even though they were very learned. And here we have 2 times in one verse, and in the next purport, the Prabhupada mentioned, even though he was a learned person, he knew everything about spiritual life, still he got attracted. And we get the example of Sobari Rishi, who was also a great saint, great sadhu, great mystic, great yogi, who was meditating under the water. And being under the water in meditation, he saw once, he was there for thousands of years doing his meditation, and he saw 2 fish who were having some romantic exchanges. I don't know how that looks. I never saw, even not in movie, or I never saw how fish do their things. But he saw that, and his mind got bewildered. And then he came out of the water and went directly to the king and asked the king for his daughters in marriage. He was very easily for him to change his ashram. And it is said that he was full of alks and long beard, and the king said, well, the king understood, if I say no, I will get cursed by this sadhu and it will not be good. So he said, well, you can approach my daughters, and if they agree, it's okay. And then the Shobari Muni understood, okay, maybe I need to clean myself and shave and do something, otherwise it will not work. Anyway, that's one story of even great rishi actually getting bewildered by this material illusion. And there is, I found a very nice, also in the 11th canto, in the story of this Avadhuta Brahmana. This Avadhuta Brahmana, Avadhuta means a person who is a little beyond the social rules. He is like very transcendental, a little eccentric sometimes, but very transcendental to material world. So this Avadhuta Brahmana was speaking with the king of the country, and the king was saying, I see you are very beautiful, you are very powerful, you are very intelligent, but you just lay on the ground and chant mantras. What's up with you? You could do so many, you could be famous, you could do so many things. And the Avadhuta Brahmana said, I have learned from, I think, 27 gurus. All what I know I have learned from gurus, which are actually in nature. And then he started to speak of all things that we find in the nature and the teaching of that. From the earth, I learned this. From the sky, I learned this. From the pigeon, I learned this. And so on and so forth. And there is actually a lot also connected to this material illusion. And then when it comes to this attraction, to the sensual pleasure or sexual attraction, he have learned this from the moth. Moth is, I think a small insect. A moth that is going into the fire. Is attracted by the light of the fire and just fly in the fire and finish. So this is the example. And then he explained how this attraction works. And I found it very, very interesting. So I just read the quote. This is Bhagavatam 11.8.8. Actually, women have the power. Again, here women and men can be inter-exchange according to which gender we are. Actually, women have the power to attract men through all the material senses. Men become lusty by seeing the body of a woman, by smelling her fragrance, by hearing her voice, by tasting her lips, and by touching her body. So through all the senses. However, the foolish relationship based on material sex attraction begins by seeing, and thus rupa, or form, is very prominent in the process of ruining one's intelligence, or to destroy one's intelligence. So everything actually starts by the seeing process. Even though all the senses can become attracted, the sense of seeing is actually the most powerful. The example of the foolish moth rushing into the fire and destroying itself is most appropriate in this regard. For one who becomes addicted to the momentary pleasure of sex indulgence certainly loses his power to understand the spiritual reality behind dull matter. That's very, very beautiful. This actually will block the living in this sexual indulgence, especially illicit sexual indulgence, will not allow the human being to perceive spirit behind dull matter. I found it very, very beautiful. And the last example we have is the example of Bilva Mangala Thakur, who was actually very learned. He was born in a Brahmana family. He had done so many pious activity, but became very, very much attracted to a prostitute, that he was ready even to cross rivers when there was a big storm. He was attacked by snakes. He was climbing the walls to meet this prostitute. He was just so attached. And the prostitute looked at him, and it is said that Somagiri, the spiritual master, appeared through the prostitute and told him, what fool you are. Just for a little pleasure with me, you are ready to lose your life. And then he understood. And then he decided, okay, I will now renounce the world. I will go for Krishna consciousness. And it is said that on his way to Vrindavan, he came to a place where he saw another lady, and again with the vision, with the sense of seeing. Just seeing this lady, he became so attracted, and then he cursed himself. He said, no, I do not want those eyes to see that anymore. And he pricked his eyes and became blind, and then from there he really focused himself fully on Krishna consciousness. So that's another story. Now, can sex or sexual indulgence be positive? And sometimes people say, yeah, but sex is natural. Why you Hare Krishnas don't want to have this type of interaction? And the answer is yes, sex is natural, but contraceptive are not. Contraceptive are not natural. So sex is actually there to have children, and even Krishna in the Bhagavad Gita said that I am sex, which is not contrary to religious principle, meaning that's actually something divine if it's done in the proper way. And we can see at least in ISKCON, most of the celibate monks get married after some time. It's a very natural process into the move of the ashram. So marriage life has actually very positive aspect. It helps us to grow in commitments. We become more committed. It helps us to actually become more responsible, more tolerant, more selfless. We have to now share what usually we would all the time do alone. We have now to share with another person. So there are actually a lot of very positive aspects that allow us to grow in this ashram. And when it's done in a proper way, marriage life is actually purifying this lust that is inside of the heart of the living entity. There is actually I'm happy I found this quote. There was a very rich man in Calcutta who was a follower of Bhaktivinoda Thakur. And he once approached Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, and he just got married, this rich man. And he approached Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and said, now I just got married. How do I go deep into my bhajan? How do I can still go deep into my spiritual practice? And Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, let's go. Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati said, you will have quite some obstacle in doing your bhajan. And this man got a little bit depressed. How is that? And how will I do? And then both Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati and this man, they went to Gorkishore Das Babaji to ask him the same question. And Gorkishore Das Babaji gave a very, very amazing answer. Gorkishore Das Babaji said, yes, it is all right that you have married. From this time, you will have to daily cook and offer foodstuff to Lord Vishnu. After offering it to him, serve the prasad to your wife. And then, as a Vaishnava, you will take her prasadam remnants. I mean, usually in Vedic society, it's the opposite. The wife will cook and will serve the husband, and then she will take prasad. But here he said to the husband, you cook, you offer to Vishnu, then you serve your wife. And then when your wife is finished, you take her prasad, her remnants. Then you should not think of her as an object for sensual gratification. Everything in this world, wealth, jewelry, men and women, are all for worshipping Krishna. That which is meant for Krishna's service should be utilized as such. Do not consider your wife as one meant for your service. Instead, respect her as a servitor of Krishna. That's I found very powerful quote. That this is actually the way in Indian or Hindu tradition. okay, the man is the king and the wife should just follow everything and all the time faithfully serve her husband. There is also some truth there also in Vaishnava sense, but in Vaishnava sense it goes in both directions, because both are beyond men and women. Both are actually Vaishnavas, and that's actually a very beautiful way to transcend this level of material bodily identification. So marriage life means that we will purify ourselves, we will become more selfless, and we will learn to serve each other. And the last for today, how to remain pure and unattached from illicit association. There are some tips that were mentioned here in the purport, which seems to be just so simple that one might feel, that will not make much difference. But anyone remember one of the tips that was coming up in the purport? That actually one should not be alone in a room together with the opposite gender. And even it's written that even with one's daughter or one's mother, it can be riskful. We even hear in Srimad Bhagavatam that even once Lord Brahma began attracted to his own daughter and was hoping to have sexual indulgence with her, even Lord Brahma. So that's also one point I wanted to bring in this lecture. Even learned scholar, even Lord Brahma. So what about us? How much actually careful we should be with this type of illusory potency of the Lord. So we should be careful in the way we associate, not be alone in a closed room with the opposite gender. Always keep the door open, and then it's all right. And also one thing interesting, it might sound a little bit fanatic, but I found it's actually very helpful in my own marriage life. For example, we are quite careful that I will not have direct time of discussion with another lady. Like, I mean, of course, if she's much older or much younger, it's different. But for example, if I have to have a talk with another lady, Vajayanti will say, I come with you. I come with you. And then she also part of this discussion. And then it just cut all chances for in that sense, for the men to get attracted to that particular lady. And I found it's actually sounds a little bit fanatic, but it's actually very much protecting the marriage life and my relationship with my wife. It's just like not taking any risk, so that this will be destroyed. And we see how many divorce, how many situations like this we have in the world. Even in our Krishna consciousness, we cannot be so proud. We also have quite some record of things like this, and that's, I think, one very important principle that helps actually couple to stay nicely together. So there are some external things like this. Those are more or less external things we can do, not flirting or joking. It's something so easy to be casual in discussion and start to joke. And it's amazing, if you have two men together, they will behave in a certain way. Now there is a lady coming with them, and there are now three, the two men and one lady. They will act in a different way. They will, this tendency of flirting or showing I'm better and like this immediately comes up. So another tip is to not contemplate the object of the sense. We were hearing like how seeing is one of the first powerful clutch of the senses into this type of physical attraction. And actually the next step is to not contemplate. If one sees something, sometimes even we drive in town and you see billboards or something like this, it's to not contemplate on those things. I remember the beginning of my Krishna consciousness, I was staying 1 week in Radhakund. Wow. First time I was in India, I did not know much. And there in the Gopalju temple was a devotee, his name is Yasoda Jivan, I think. very, very deep and a beautiful soul. And before going back to Germany, I asked him for advice, and he could see I was a very young devotee and I might have some struggle with this principle. So he told me, whenever Maya attacks you, don't contemplate on it. Just you have somehow or other to get your mind away. If you allow contemplation to come, then it will get stronger and stronger, and then no way you will not be able to go over it. Narada Muni also there is a verse when he said that you can actually conquer lust but here is by contemplating, but not by contemplating the object of the senses, but by contemplating how detrimental is that for your life. By contemplating this activity might be just few minutes or few seconds of pleasure, but then it's painful actually for the heart. So contemplate how detrimental this act will be. One devotee told me once that as more as we identify to one of the gender, as more we become attracted to the other gender. And as more as we are detached, or let's say as more as we are identified as a soul, as less actually the attraction can be there. And this actually, when we feel I'm a very, very strong man, then we will get much more attraction to the opposite sex. And we can see that actually this push above, this above of I can control, I can enjoy, this is actually the root that generate actually this lust, and that this lust is coming there to fulfill this desire. I want to control, I want to enjoy. And I heard yesterday a lecture from Bhakti Charuswami where he speak about that. In this particular verse, Maharaj was speaking, and he was giving a very nice explanation. He said that the living entity is by nature higher than material energy, because material energy is inert. So living entity is spiritual being. So we are higher than material energy, and naturally we try to control and enjoy material energy. But as a result, we get bound by this energy. But he said, as soon as we are aware that there is a higher energy, which is like the pure spiritual energy, then one actually can transcend the material energy. Which brings us to the last point, is actually only by being spiritually strong or spiritually connected that we can actually go over this powerful attachment or powerful illusion in this material world. There are some small things, like I mentioned, we can do, but the main thing is actually taking shelter of the Lord and developing our Krishna consciousness, becoming more aloof from the material body, and having this spiritual vision in our life. We can see the example of Ramananda Roy, who was an associate of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Even though he was in the body of a man, he was totally detached from the body of a man. And he was actually even dressing girls who were supposed to dance for Jagannath. And I don't remember who, but one person, anyone remember who? What was the name of this? One person approached Mahaprabhu and said, "Oh, I would like to hear about Rasa Lila, about Krishna's pastime." And he said, "You go to Ramananda Roy." And this devotee came to Ramananda Roy and he saw him dressing those girls. So he went back to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Or Chaitanya Mahaprabhu met him a few days later and said, "Oh, did you hear from Ramananda Roy?" And he said, No, I don't want to hear from him. He's dressing young girls." And then he said, No, he's beyond. He's beyond. Why? Because he was fully in his spiritual identity. He was not thinking he was a man. He was totally in his spiritual identity, and there was actually no attraction to the opposite gender possible. So this is actually one of the things is one should practice celibacy. That's what is given to us, and we heard in the first part of the lecture why it's actually detrimental to break celibacy, but at the same time it should be done together with spiritual practices. Otherwise it can be actually detrimental. Otherwise it's type of repression that can bring some mental disease. But if it's done parallel to spiritual practice with proper understanding and proper guidance, then it's actually elevating one's consciousness. Another way is actually to think deeply about Krishna, remember Krishna, bring Krishna and Radharani in our consciousness, and meditate how I can serve them, how I can do my service paka. Did I do my service today? Or maybe today no need to do, I will do some other time. Maybe someone else will do. Things like this. How much I actually meditating on how will I do my service very nicely so that Radha and Krishna will be pleased, Radha Madan Mohan will be pleased. I like to end by speaking a little bit about how Krishna is actually beyond this sexual attraction, and how he's actually the master of Cupid. Madan Mohan means the one who enchants even Cupid himself. And there are 3 small pastimes I would like to tell, not in detail, but shortly. One is happening in a place called Madan Ter in Vrindavan. When you do the parikram of Vrindavan, it's a beautiful, beautiful garden. And it is said that once Krishna was performing his Rasa Lila in this place, and Cupid came, and he saw this Rasa dance, and he thought, who is this Krishna? How dare he dance with so many women? I will agitate his lust. I will throw my loving, lusty arrow at Krishna, and then he will have lust, and then he will fall down, he will get impure, and blah, blah, blah. And he was there, and he was watching, and he was trying to shoot, but he was just looking at the form of Krishna. And when looking at the form of Krishna, he became so attracted that he actually could not shoot his arrow. His arrow and bow fell on the ground, and he said, no, this guy is too beautiful. And he was actually fully conquered by Krishna. There is another pastime when Krishna was in this world in a different form, which is the form of Narayan Rishi. And this time, when Krishna came in that form, actually the story goes that I think it was Narada Muni who came to Krishna and said, Krishna, you said that we should practice austerity, but you are all the time with Lakshmi, she's massaging your feet, and you are lying on the bed, and you don't really give the example of doing austerity. How will people follow if you don't give the example? So Krishna said, okay. So he came in this earth in this form of Narayan Rishi, and this happened in Badrinath, and he was doing austerity there, and Indra felt, oh no, look at this guy, he is doing so much austerity, maybe he will take away my post, and he will become the next Indra, and I will be nobody, I will lose my post. So he sent the best of Apsaras to make Narayana Rishi fall down. So when Narayana Rishi saw those beautiful Apsaras coming, he stood up, he welcomed them, he gave them a seat, and he treated them very, very nicely. But when they saw Narayana Rishi, they started to tremble. They understood this is the Supreme Personality of Godhead. They put it their hand down, they offer prayer. But then Narayan Rishi expanded from his own form, much beautifuler forms than those Apsara, because they were coming directly from him, like beautiful celestial spiritual being. And then Indra came to check, and he saw those women, and he understood, okay, my Apsara are nothing, and here is the Supreme Lord, and he offered also his full respect to Narayan Rishi. And the last small pastime explaining how Krishna is beyond all of that, or how the spiritual energy is actually much higher than even the most powerful aspect of material energy. This happened in a place called Mayura Kund, and this is close to Radha Kund when you exit the Parikram road in direction of Govardhan. And there it is said that at this place once also Krishna was doing his Rasa Lila, and when Krishna is doing his amazing dance, usually some demigods, they are with aeroplane over, and some demigods they can see, not all. But it is said that Indra is often there, he was there, but only his wife could see, and he could not see. And when he saw how much she was excited, he got really angry. Oh no, I cannot see, and she's so excited. So he also sent some apsaras to captivate Krishna's mind. And when Krishna saw the apsaras, he smiled and he transformed himself as a peacock. And he started to dance and walk away. Like say, I don't care, what's that, you know? And that's another time when Indra understood, okay, wow, no, that's beyond. So the small example, and this gives us the understanding that this material energy can be overcome only when we are actually connecting deeply in Krishna consciousness. When we are conscious that there is a higher energy over us, not when we forget that there is energy is there and we think, okay, there is only me and material energy, and I can control this material energy. No, this Krishna consciousness, conscious that there is a higher energy, that actually Radha and Krishna are there, and our role is actually to serve them. That like we don't want to enjoy material nature, but that was the words of Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati, but we want to become enjoyed by the spiritual nature. We want to be the object of enjoyment for the divine couple. This is like very deep and powerful way. It's a different turn around that we want to take, and see the chance we have. We can be living in association with devotees, we can be singing kirtan with each other every day, we can be hearing Srimad Bhagavatam every day. This is actually what makes us strong. And only when the spiritual strength is there, then we actually can stand over this powerful illusion of material life. Otherwise we have just no chance. And you can see sometimes our sadhana gets down, our rounds are mechanical, we feel, oh, why should I go to the lecture, this is so and so speaking, whatever. But we can see we just get weaker, and when we get weaker, this material energy is getting on our nerves. So I think I want to end this lecture by appreciating that we can appreciate the chance we have to be in association with devotee, to not take that for granted. In the whole world there are so less devotees, and so even less who have this opportunity to live in Sangha with devotees, to have program, to have deities, to have Mahaprasad every day. So this is actually something amazing. This is something we should feel very, very fortunate for, and we should not even living in the temple, we can starve ourselves spiritually. We can not read, we can be casual with our spiritual practice. So I wanted to end with this note of appreciating what we have, and really be giving our best in association with others, taking association from others, giving association to others, and cultivating Krishna consciousness in a pure and powerful way, to keep ourselves over those small difficulties of life that are often troubling us. So that's what I tried to prepare for today. We were hearing why these illicit sexual indulgences are negative. What are the negative aspects? Can it be positive? Yes, when it's used in a proper way and connected to marriage, in the goal of increasing our service, in the goal of developing Krishna consciousness further. And at the end we had some tips on how we can remain pure and remain unaffected or unattached from this powerful illusion. So that's for today. I don't know if you have any questions, any comments, any doubts. Yeah, Ananga Manjari. Actually, maybe we can ask Moses, maybe you can run to the mix table and get the microphone. Then you can switch on and you just try, because there are two microphones, you just try if that's the right one. Yeah, okay.
Thank you for a very wonderful lecture, many wonderful explanations and common sense. I like very much this what Spiritual Master Bhaktisiddhanta Saraswati was writing, how actually one should act with one wife, how one should see. But I would say not only one wife, one should see all wives Varnas. So many times, especially in our society, women are, I mean, not through your lecture, definitely not, but in other cases, women are very, um, the view to the woman is very sometimes strange because this is like a object of lust. Only because they are women and they are looking like they are looking, or maybe they have voice or intelligent or whatever, you know, it's immediately like a fear. And many times they also put it down, even very grossly in some positions or avoiding or whatever. So it's common sense that one knows how one is behaving, but it's also very respectful to see the problem. Then of course I will take care of myself, but I should not put my problem on the others. Like if I have some lusty problem, I should not think all men are lusty. I'm not anymore communicating with them or giving them feeling of only because it's my problem. So this is one thing which is happening sometimes, not always, but sometimes. And yeah,
Thank you.
so maybe we stay a bit.
Yeah. Often actually in a stage where one is not so mature in Krishna consciousness, there is this rough rejection of no, this is all Maya and like this. There was once nuns who wrote a letter to Prabhupada, and they say we were in the street and we met those your devotee who distribute books, and they were just so rough and so fanatic, and I don't think it's good for your movement to have such a people. And then Prabhupada wrote back, please forgive them. They just have decided now to turn back towards spiritual life, and they need a certain strength to cut from the material energy. So sometimes it might appear this type of immaturity or fanaticism in the stage of immaturity of the devotees. But as we grow up, we should have develop this vision, like not only the wife, but also all the devotee, all living being. Actually, they are part of Krishna, and we should be identified as their servant. Still, at the same time, knowing how to deal, how to interact, so that one do not get affected, and that this lust is not just growing. There are mature way actually to do that. And
I just remember one second. It's okay?
please.
Like, I think Srila Prabhupada is writing somewhere that if you want to get of your lusty desire, then just read about Krishna in the Krishna book or whatever. So it's very interesting because more one is developing taste for such a things, less one is thinking about something else. So it's like in one way, of course, especially from the beginning, not so much clarity is there. One have to be like trying to control the mind, but actually, how much we can control the mind? If we could control the mind, it would be like we are more powerful than Krishna. We can control, but we are not controlled. So it's actually very nicely explained in Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu that actually more we are eager to take part of hearing of Krishna and his devotees, automatically stable. Automatically. The other things are going away. So it's very interesting.
Thank you. Thank you. Anyone else? Yeah, Anuradha.
I just remember Bhaktivedanta Tirtha Maharaj was here and he was having a lecture. That one more point which I remember about subtle enjoyment. That's even more dangerous because if you are aware or not aware, and when you are glancing with eyes or just looking like this or smiling with another, especially monks, it's very dangerous. And he mentioned can be not even aware, and it's good to know. Because most dangerous thing is that you think, oh, I don't want to get married, I want to have celibacy. I don't want because I have that experience in my past. But if this tendency is there because you are not even aware, others can see it or can hear it, not even see it. So when you are for yourself seeing that this is going on, or somebody is saying to you, oh, I noticed that, it's good to read or to ask questions about it. And it can be very dangerous if you are not cultivating another way to deal with it. Maharaj was talking about it for dancing because people were not aware that.
Thank you. It's thank you for bringing. It's actually a very vast topic. We could go deep, but I thought also of these subtleties, and I mean, sometimes we always have young boy and young girls who come to the temple. They get training for some times, and I remember my wife was saying to one of them, stop smiling at this brahmachari. It's you don't need. It's not good for him. It's not good for you. Just don't smile, because then for a man he get one of those smile, and then he immediately start to meditate. Oh, maybe and so it's. I mean, it needs to be done in the right way, but it's subtle. I was brahmachari for I think 10 years or something like this, but I noticed sometimes I was just joking or laughing with Mataji, and then the Mataji will send me a letter, and then I was, I'm brahmachari, and then she would suffer like anything because I was just casual in my way of acting as a brahmachari. So it's actually it's good to be a little bit aware of that and be a little bit sober. It's a little more difficult when we are quite young, but it's good to understand how it works and to learn those subtleties, and still acting like human being with good heart and kindness, and like this. It's two things different, but one just need to be aware of this type of subtle lust and not indulge into it. Thank you. It's a relevant perspective. Okay, then I thank you. I see it's already 9 o'clock, so we're happy to stop here. Thank you for your participation. Srila Prabhupada ki jai, Grantaraj Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai.